Sabah khair, everyone. Good morning. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. Indeed, a great honor to be asked to participate in this conference. And it's amazing to see so many people. There's such a large number of colleagues and friends and co-workers. I would just like to take a few minutes to share my thoughts on the humanitarian dimension of a conflict that has ravaged Syria, your country, for so long. And it revolves very much around the work that the Syrian civil society does and the amazing work that you do, because I have seen in the last, since I've only been here a year, but in the last 5 or 6 years, you've gone from a civil society which was basically at zero to perhaps the strongest civil society I have ever seen in my 25 years of humanitarian experience. The tragedy that has befallen the Syrian people is indescribable. It's had a terrible impact on your future generations, on the children of today, and this is an enormous impact. The Greek poet Aeschylus said that in our sleep, pain which cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart, until in our own despair and against our will comes wisdom through the grace of God. And I'm here today to make a humble contribution to share my deepest conviction about that wisdom, which is also my main message today. The future of Syria, and this is the wisdom, the future of Syria will depend heavily on you. You have an amazing civil society, which you have built, as I mentioned, just from scratch in a few years. When I speak about you informally with colleagues, etc., I said the things that you're doing are so innovative that we haven't done it in 25 years of operating in other humanitarian contexts. So you have an amazing brains trust, technical trust, but also incredible motivation. And my belief comes straight from this close interaction with the representatives of Syrian humanitarian organizations, civil society as well as the ordinary citizens. What you're asking for is nothing less than what others take for granted in most other places. And you had it. It was just taken away from you. Security for your children and your families, access to jobs, basic services, time with your families, and other normal activities. Nothing out of the ordinary at all. That prospect is at once distant and near. Distant because the feelings of despair, humiliation, and revolt are etched on many hearts and minds. This conflict has been dragging on for 6 years, but the prospect is also very near because of your hope. And your hope is driving this, which fuels your tireless humanitarian work. The humanitarian situation in Syria remains desperate for millions of civilians. This year alone, the UN and its partners, yourselves, we've assessed that 13.5 million Syrians will depend to some extent, if not entirely, on humanitarian assistance, especially in the besieged areas. This is apparent for a whole series of indicators whose dispassionate precision should not hide the everyday human misery that they reflect. Sadly, we deal with a problem which over the last years has become worse. Continued indiscriminate or targeted strikes against civilian structures and civilians, including many of your colleagues and families, hospitals, health structures, education structures, the numerous non-state armed groups and the threat of extremism that indicate that our, and in fact your working environment has become much more dangerous and cynical because you are the ones who actually take the risks on the ground. And so Syria today provides one of the most significant examples of blatant disrespect for international humanitarian law and human rights. Since 2011, more than 11 million people inside Syria have been displaced, both within, with over 6.6 million IDPs, internally displaced persons, and outside the country with 5 million refugees. This is the single largest humanitarian operation, with hundreds of agencies and organizations spending billions of dollars annually. But despite these enormous efforts, aid has failed to check the rising needs. The humanitarian crisis is not restricted to the most vulnerable. The whole Syrian population is suffering a severe socio-economic crisis as a result. Any prospect of development or growth has almost entirely vanished, turning much of the country into what is largely a subsistence economy, where day-to-day survival is all that counts. The longer the humanitarian crisis continues, the more traditional safety nets and solidarity arrangements simply disappear, swelling the ranks of those who rely on external assistance to survive. But you, humanitarian organizations, you face these barriers and movements of staff and humanitarian goods which are severely curtailed. This is something that you face on a daily basis. 2 weeks ago, I attended the Brussels conference supporting the future of Syria and the region. And the participants there agreed that the way forward requires the UN and its partners to continue to expand their reach to affected populations, addressing both the short-term and the mid-term needs, with a clear focus supporting the resilience of people and the most affected communities and preserving capacities of service delivery institutions. There's evidence to indicate that over the past 3 years, resilience building initiatives inside Syria have proven not only possible, but also effective at scale. And you're doing this. When they speak about recovery in Syria in a post-political agreement environment, they speak of how will we do resilience, how will we do recovery. I keep telling everyone, well, you to come and look at what the NGOs are doing here, because what you're doing is recovery. You're recovering every single day. You run the hospitals, you run the schools, you do the operations. Your humanitarian interventions go beyond the humanitarian sphere. You're doing very highly technical development activities. You're doing the job of ministries. And it's very important to see that the enormous experience from that has to be contributed to a future in Syria. We work very closely together, and unfortunately this year the need for civil society organizations is not getting smaller, it's getting bigger. But there's a need to do things a bit more jointly and to learn from each other without jeopardizing security, aid delivery, or our work. And so we are here, I am here, OCHA is here, and the UN is here to profile your work, to make sure that everyone out there knows what you're doing, that it is really life-saving. You're saving lives on a daily basis, while at the same time facing the same risks that your patients face, or that the vulnerable populations face inside Syria. So foremost among our priority should be the valuable contributions also that women make. And I think this is something we need to really start looking at much more closely, in depth, and expansively in our work. The leadership that women exercise in supporting their communities and families, in particular during these very difficult times. Our effort to engage women comes too late and in too small a measure. We have to really energize this, we have to increase it. And we must change that. I must change that. Syrian civil society leadership must change that. And I personally believe that if we had that leadership throughout Syria, the situation would be better today, and this crisis will be mitigated. So it's imperative that we know what and how women and girls are affected and their needs, as well as men and boys, to ensure that they get the assistance they need to survive and to thrive. I have seen surveys of women that significantly differ from other surveys. So the inclusion of women in all our work is terribly important. And we are in the UN as well are determined to help you change this, and also to change the way we work to be able to do this. Finally, I would like to say that we need to dream. Your hope is incredible, and we need to dive deep, and we need to keep daring and doing the things that you're doing right now. You actually represent humanity, because the work that you do, taking the risks that you do, that is what humanity is about. That is the essence of humanity. And you inspire, you motivate us. The risks that you take, the sacrifices that you make are incredible. We at the UN, we remain here at your service to champion you, to support your work, and to champion your work. What I can say is that throughout the UN, from the Office of Special Envoy to the Regional Humanitarian Coordinator, Kevin Kennedy in Amman, throughout the UN, we are increasingly aware of the work that you do. For the last few years, I must say, you did a lot of the work, and you did it a little bit under the radar and for certain reasons, for security reasons, etc. But we really want to show the value of your work, because in any future Syria, without you, there will be little or no recovery, because you are the brains trust, as I mentioned, you are the technical capacity that will help do that. So again, I would like to thank SRN for the honor of this invitation, and I wish you all a very successful conference, and inshallah a very successful year and peace as well.